alumni and soon-to-be staff. So part of his training is doing tours and talking about the program. So thought I'd just do a real quick overview before you even walk in the building, just to give you an idea of what you're walking into. Demario will then show you around, talk about some of the programs, and then we can end with some questions. So technically the organization is United Roots, but this building is now the Youth Impact Hub. So brief history is we had some community movements that we started in 2000, and at the peak of those movements we had a lot of momentum and energy, and there was an idea to create a community center and to build a green center and a bunch of stuff. So you'll see on the wall some of the history, but essentially the movement was born out of the legacy of the Black Panther Party and the Brown Berets, and also in some collaboration with the Zapatistas. So most of the folks that were involved from the beginning were activists in using art as civil disobedience. So the collective that sort of birthed that was called Art in Action, and there's a bunch of different groups involved in that contingent. We had been working in South Central Los Angeles. They did a peace treaty between the Bloods and Crips, and when we came in, we were trying to incorporate the Salvatrucha and the Mexican Mafia, but do environmental justice work with the gangs. So getting the gangs to do environmental justice work in the hood, and having gang members transition from illegal economies into social enterprises. So a lot of history, could go on and on about what that work entails, but when we came to Oakland, that project sort of birthed into a few different configurations. Our food justice tip sort of went in the People's Grocery direction. Our campaigns was with Ella Baker Center. We launched the Silence the Violence campaign, which is now a national campaign around the country, but originally it was just in Oakland and it spread throughout the Bay Area. And the project I was most involved with was called Turf Unity. It was sort of simulating the work in South Central Los Angeles, using the principles of various movements. I mentioned Black Panther Party for self-defense, Brown Berets, just a number of different groups contributed to the philosophies and methodology behind our movement. So Turf Unity at its peak was about 40 neighborhoods throughout the Bay Area. We were shifting the culture through the artists. So a lot of the rappers and artists from those neighborhoods, what we did is we encouraged collaboration between the artists and had the content reflect shared struggle. So it wasn't necessarily advocating for peace, but it was advocating for self-defense, and it was advocating for justice, and it was advocating for working together. Of course, if you have unity, there can be peace, but it depends on the type of unity we're talking about. We're not talking about forced assimilation or conformity, but we're talking about, similar to the Zapatista movement, each chapter is autonomous, but it can function as a collective if needed, in rotational leadership, many basic principles to a healthy social movement. So saying all that to say that in 2008, our movement was approached by a few different folks and asked us to sort of take our work to the next level. Van Jones is running Ella Baker Center. He's launching the Green for All campaign. He said, we really need to have like a green youth center in Oakland. Got you some seed funding, could your coalition sort of build out a space? The Turf Unity movement had gotten a lot of attention from larger artists. Initially, Dead Prez did our fundraiser, and then other artists like Mr. Fab and Hieroglyphics and Dwayne Wiggins were involved. But we also attracted groups like Black Eyed Peas and will.i.am, and he brought Adobe, Facebook, and Twitter, and all these major corporations. So we used sort of Robin Hood complex, used the money from the corporations to build out the space, but work with the grassroots artists and the culture keepers to mobilize the youth and put them in leadership. So this billboard shows we repurposed the community center. This was formerly Covenant House, a drop-in center for youth on the streets and homeless youth. We actually have a homeless shelter we built. I used to work there. I helped build the homeless youth shelter. We have a number of different spaces and buildings. But when we were approached with these two opportunities, we're like, let's reopen this community space, which was closed down during the orchestrated economic collapse where rich people decided to try to just wipe out the lower class and crush all the grassroots organizations, creating further class divides. But we know that the fallout of that meant that a lot of our partners closed, and since the space was vacant, and I've been working with hundreds of youth here, and everyone's like, where are we going to go? Like, let's reopen this space. We want it to be turf neutral. San Pablo's a turf, San Pablo, Telegraph's turf neutral corridor. Broadway and Telegraph, you can tend to get away with shit. Pablo, other strips start to get into turf. So, we got folks from all the different neighborhoods coming here. We also want to be close to downtown, but not necessarily up in the corporate environment, but in a local business district. So there's a lot of immigrant-owned businesses, now urban artists, kind of hipster people, folks moving in, but it's a local business district. We're a storefront because our young people are providing services to the community. You come in today, you'll see Hack the Hood. They do web design for local businesses. They're actually offering it all for free right now. They also do affordable websites for more advanced sites for local businesses. So that's one program you'll see, but the storefront, businesses come in, get the website. We function as a co-working space. So here's Will.i.am with some of the founders. When we repurposed the space, we did a design shred. So what's more green than building a green building is to take a space and make it more green and repurpose it. So you use the least amount of resources possible. We repurposed some of the doors and windows and sheetrock and moved some things around. This carpet's made out of recycled plastic bags. This paint is colored with plants, so it's non-toxic. We have solar power panels on the roof, little garden space, water catchment system. Basic green upgrades you can do when you're completely broke in a grassroots organization, but the best attempt that you possibly can. So it is a green facility. The tech side is Black Eyed Peas, Adobe, all of them gave us money to build out the media studios, full recording studio, green screen for photo and video production. We have the Adobe software, so we do graphic design, web design, filmmaking type stuff. And so you'll see that all the computers have all the software on them. Some of the media labs have some more advanced stuff, and they can be used for production of anything from a website to a brochure to music production, whatever folks are working on media or tech related. And the last thing I'll say just about the setup of the space is there's this evolution and growth that happened recently. So the philosophy of our work is healing. And we believe that people heal by connecting to their culture and reconnecting to their cultural roots / united roots, also roots of the earths, learning about earth-based systems. So you could say biomimicry or indigenous-based cultures play a key role in what we do here. Our philosophy is get yourself right, then get right with your family and friends, then get right with your community, and then when the community has built that foundation and then can start to tackle some of the societal issues. So the programs that Demario will talk about are rooted in bringing in culture keepers to teach young people about cultural legacies, using cultural tools for healing. So healing around watching your friend get murdered, healing around being a sexual abuse survivor, healing around ongoing